Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Higher Education Tableau user group for June 27th, 2023. Hope you liked the extra funky music that Roshni picked out for us today. Let's see, on our agenda, we've got Meet a Community Member with Heather Lewis from Augusta, followed by Tips and Tricks with Rashid Minott from Wells Fargo, and our conference here in a review, followed by wrap up and chat. We'd like to open the floor for any announcements that you might have. If you want to come off mute, share anything that you think the group needs to hear. If you have any open positions, you can tell us about it. You can post them in the chat. You can post them on our Slack page. So we are opening the floor to announcements.
Well, I've got one. So every year, Tableau inaugurates a new class of ambassadors. So ambassadors are folks who just are active in the community. They help others learn how to use Tableau, work through their data, all of those types of things. And right now, we are in the middle of ambassador nomination season. So I've been a Tableau user group ambassador this year, and it's been a great way to sort of kind of push user groups, because that's basically what you do. Because, from things like HETUG and a whole bunch of the other user groups that are around, from accessibility to data pride to all of the local and regional TUGs, there's a whole lot you can learn in user groups. So it's been a great opportunity for me to just keep pushing that. And there are a whole bunch of different types of ambassadors. One of our speakers today, Rashid, used to also be a Tableau ambassador. I believe he was a forums ambassador, but I'm probably completely wrong about that. But there are ambassadors for all sorts of different areas within Tableau, Tableau Public, Social. There's even a new category this year for academics, so folks who students and teachers who are just helping get Tableau out there in the education realm. So yeah, if you know someone who you think would be a great Tableau ambassador, nominate them. If you want to be a Tableau ambassador, you can also nominate yourself or apply. The link is on the screen. We're gonna post it in the chat in just a second. But yeah, Tableau ambassador applications, they're due July 14th. Bastille Day, is that right?
Maybe.
Oh, I don't know. Rashid was actually a user group ambassador as well, so.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Roshni. I, for one, plan to get on there and nominate several people who I think would be fabulous ambassadors. All right, so if anybody else knows somebody, get on there. It just takes a couple of minutes, so. Oh, I see Peter put another announcement in the chat box. They're seeking a volunteer webmaster for NCARE. I know a lot of people from North Carolina institutions are in this group and probably on this TUG meeting. So I think that, and Peter, correct me if I say this incorrectly, but I don't know that you need any prior experience being a webmaster. I bet there are some people who will help you figure it out along the way.
Yes, absolutely, including Great. Yours truly, the former webmaster. I'm still involved. I've just switched roles to the treasurer of NCARE. So I'm happy to collaborate with anyone who's willing to volunteer.
Great, thanks, Peter.
And it's a very fun group. There's an annual conference. There's usually also a summer meetup. It's about 130 members, so it's not a huge load, and it's a WordPress website, so it's pretty easy to maintain. But seeking volunteers and happy to chat with anyone about that.
Awesome. And I can vouch that NCARE is great. It's a great organization. Been part of it for years. All right, so moving right along, we're going to meet our community member, Heather Lewis from Augusta University. Heather has a BS in psychology from Georgia College and State University and an MS in industrial organizational psychology from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, where one of my friends teaches. Just a little tidbit. She has worked at Augusta University for over 11 years and as an assessment coordinator, a research analyst, a survey coordinator, and now is the director of institutional analytics. Heather, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so I'm just going to ask you some questions about Tableau and about yourself and your role, and then we will jump into our favorite lightning round. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in your team.
Right. So here we are in institutional research is in institutional institutional effectiveness, and we have planning and accreditation and project management all under that institutional effectiveness umbrella. And IR has grown drastically over the past year or so. So we have institutional research analysts, and then we have institutional information analysts. So they really do one side of the house really focus on making, dashboards from our data warehouse and kind of that live data. And the other team really focuses on external reporting, compliance reporting, that sort of thing. And then we have a data viz specialist now, a dedicated person who focuses on, creating a cohesive analytics brand for us, a data design brand. And yeah, we also have a data governance coordinator, which is brand new to our shop as well. And they're really focused on, creating processes and, policies around how do we create definitions? What is our tool that we capture those definitions in? And who approves those definitions? Who has access to the data? What level of access do they have to the data? And things like that. But yeah, we are a Tableau shop. We were using Obi as our analytics tool for a while, but we're going to decommission that, move into Tableau completely, and have that be our analytics, our BI tool across the institution. So yeah, really, really fun stuff there. But yeah, we've grown tremendously. There was a strategic enrollment management project that happened last year. And from that, our president, Dr. Keel, decided that a tremendous amount of analytics really needs to be dedicated to student success in order for us to increase our retention rates and our graduation goals and things of that nature. So we actually have an analyst in advising now, an analyst in enrollment management, an analyst in the registrar focusing on course analytics, and another in student affairs focusing on housing, and we use Presence to do their card swipes and such. So yeah, we've grown a lot, but yeah, we've got a lot to do, a lot to build, all that jazz.
Wow, that is really impressive with your cross-departmental teams right there.
Right.
So what type of data do you personally work with the most?
Well, it used to be when I was a survey research coordinator, surveys. So reshaping it, getting it just right. I follow Steve Wexler's blog, and that helped me tremendously, really hit the ground running when it came to survey data and showing that in Tableau. And I also took his course as well, and that was very pivotal. That was very, very much important with my growth in this role. But it used to be like survey data and just focusing on survey data and reshaping data, learning what joins are, what unions are. So we have the graduation exit survey, and we survey students who have applied for graduation. And so I may want to clean out after the survey's done, students who took the survey but didn't actually graduate. So knowing how to put all of those things together in Tableau Prep was a great learning experience. But from there, today I'm working on the enrollment snapshot, which is a report that comes out every Monday from our data portal or OBI environment. And it's a table. And that's all it is, not like an interactive graphic. So we're putting that to Tableau so that our leadership has an indication as to where our enrollment is today compared to today last year. And are we on track? That sort of thing. So yeah, right now it's enrollment. We also, today too, we're helping build philanthropy's campaign dashboard. We're in a period of a silent campaign. That silent campaign's coming to an end, and we want to visualize that and communicate that to leadership. And but yeah, so lots of things. Institutional. The goal is to be institutional.
Definitely. Fantastic. So obviously you use Tableau at work, but how are you using it?
Like Tableau desktop or
Yeah, do you have server? Do you,
oh,
you use prep, you already mentioned, and yeah.
right.
So
No, great
how do you use
question.
Tableau at work?
Right, at work. So how we are organized is that IT builds our infrastructure and is really responsible for server. And so we do have Tableau server and they manage the sites. So IE has one site and that allows us to have like basically the site that leadership goes to. But like philanthropy can have their own site because they have very, very sensitive data and that IE doesn't need to see. So IT will manage those sites, and then we'll publish to our IE site our workbooks, and IT also creates the Tableau data sources for us to grab onto and visualize. And so, they really manage server and they create our Tableau data sources from our data warehouse. And we grab onto them when we open Tableau desktop, we sign into server, we can see a list of data sources, we grab onto those and start making tables and graphs and whatnot. And then we publish it to server. Awesome. And then sometimes, prep, if you want to join stuff together, but we're looking at getting Tableau data management to help us have so sometimes with a Tableau, like I have the enrollment snapshot, I will set a subscription on that to send every Monday. But say I want to join data that's not in that data source to that data source, hypothetically, I would have to use prep. But prep's flows are not automated without Tableau data management. So we're going to add that on. And it's also a great data governance tool. And we're upgrading our data cookbook so that our definitions can seamlessly like come over into a server as a data source, like a metadata source. And then when you hover over the data, you can actually see the definitions, the approved definitions from Data Cookbook. So it comes in as metadata. But yeah, so we're using desktop, we're using prep. It's a little limited right now, but it still helps us get the job done. I can't do my job without prep, quite honestly. It is a fantastic tool. Yeah. It saves you a tremendous amount of time, and you can really get to the data that you need quickly and do trial and error quickly. It's fantastic. And so we're doing prep, we're doing desktop, and we have server, and we're looking at adding on data management as well.
So do you have a favorite Tableau project that you've worked on?
Probably the latest one. I have to say it's like every workbook that I work on is like, that's my favorite. That's my favorite. And, I look at the workbooks that I made in like 2015, and it's a stacked, it's 100%, stacked chart, but it's with Likert, it's with Likert, can't say Likert. It's with Likert survey results, and it's not divergent bar chart, right? That Steve Wexler so heavily says, I've found out how to represent, this kind of survey results accurately, or, in a way that people can digest it easily. And yeah, so I would definitely say the last one was probably my best one. It was for finance for our chief business officer, because again, we're institutional. So we have to cover all of the major domains. And so we did a finance dashboard for our chief business officer, and it looked at tuition revenue and mandatory fees, and also expenses to budget for each college across the institution, so that we can see, how much do these colleges have left to spend for these departments and these certain funds and stuff like that. So that was probably my favorite this last one, but yeah, it always grows. You always see with data viz, it's always like, oh, okay, this is even better. I can do this better. And even, one that I made a year ago, I'm like, oh, I can make this better. And it's always like what I found is that simple is best. especially if it's a new workbook from scratch, because you need to socialize and train the users. And if you have too much in there, maybe, things can get lost in translation, and it can be very intimidating to navigate. So what we have found is that simpler, cleaner the design, the better it is for actually people remembering it and using it. So yeah, and we also have like training tools that accompany a lot of our workbooks now. So it will be like maybe a slide deck with some short videos showing how to navigate, the dashboards, because it's basically supposed to serve as like, okay, if I was sitting right next to you, this is how I would train you how to use this workbook. So we're really getting into that kind of training, that kind of that communication gap that has always kind of existed without these new staff that we currently have, which is like, okay, we built the workbook, we spent so much time on it, we published it to the server, we sent an email to the people who need to use it, and that's it. But you need to keep touching base. You need to create training materials. You need to strategically communicate. It's credit hour period, right? And a lot of our budget is determined on our credit hour generation. And so when do we send that kind of information to our leadership, and just being way more strategic about communications? But that's a huge, undertaking. That's a whole other mindset, right? Not an analyst one so much. So it's a gap. So we're trying to get more into that kind of communication, filling that gap up, so that people do kind of remember to go to our website and they know where the trained materials are and stuff like that.
And since you're talking about training materials, how long have you been using Tableau, and how did you learn how to use it?
Right. So I've been using Tableau since 2015. My first Tableau was with our 2014 Nessie data. And so I remember that. I should have brought it. I should have sent a screenshot of it and a screenshot of my latest one, because it's an evolution, right? And so I know it was a mess. It was. I remember I did a Bessie Tableau, and I did it like a correlation matrix, high school GPA, and like just all the bells and whistles in the kitchen sink, right? But people really just want simple. What at our institution at least, and how I learned it, I just dug right in there, and a ton of YouTube videos, and really Steve Wexler's training. That really helped me tremendously. We also took Tableau desktop, a fundamentals training from, I think it was Interworks at the time. And so, yeah, but like just really just going to the community page and going to public as well to generate, ideas. And yeah, so just, it was a lot of, but keeping it simple helped generate more workbooks and stuff. So that was, but at the same time, if you generate a lot of workbooks, then you got to create the training materials with it. So that was always a, conflicting kind of, things, but yeah, so it was really, I would say Steve Wexler's training tremendously helped me. And that really launched my confidence into building out this tool, diving right in and kind of making this my career. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Steve Wexler's site, which I put the link in the chat for anyone who needs it, is fantastic. What would you say is your favorite Tableau feature?
Oh, I love how the animation, you can slow that down now. I just think that's so slick. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be default. This is going to be part of our brand that, we're going to slow down the speed at which the data changes in these vizzes, because and sometimes it was happening so fast that people couldn't see that any data changed, right? So, but if you slow it down, people are like, oh, you can see it in their faces. They're like, it really like registers with them more. So that's my favorite thing, honestly. I think that's just so cool.
And
but
really cool. Do you use that replay button? Do you show them how to use it?
I haven't had the opportunity. I'm dying on the inside, because I've been like, that's been on my wish list to do for like a year. And like ever since I saw that Iron Viz, it wasn't last year or the year before, but there's the play button for the amount of streams for a song over a course of a year. And like when it became really popular, I was like, oh my gosh, that told that story so well.
Mhm.
I mean, it gave me goosebumps because I'm a nerd like that, you know, and it's just like, that was incredible. It's like, so I would love to do that kind of play animation with like our student enrollment, and then, you know, play, how does that jive along the lines of like credit hours being registered, enrolled credit hours for the enrollment and stuff like that. Like, how do all those kind of KPIs talk to each other, like on a time basis? And what does that kind of, you know, look like? But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with that feature.
So that kind of feeds right into the next question. What is something you'd like to learn more about?
Right, definitely the animation. There's a ton on server I would like to learn more about. I just did a Tableau site admin training because I'm the site admin for our Tableau site. And I need to understand more about the permissions and stuff like that. And there's Ask Data on there. I'm like, is this something we could use? Because that is really for the data source for my training. Like, you can ask the data, you type in, you know, what is enrollment for fall term 2022, and it theoretically should work, but I haven't been able to really dive into that. And then at what level, who would have access to that feature? Would it just be, you know, so these are things that I have to figure out and whatnot. But yeah, I would say more about server. We're really trying to, and I've asked this on the Slack channel before, but you know, as if any of you have server and have figured out how to make it beautiful and intuitive and, you know, just easy to navigate and not a mess for the user. That's really my challenge now, is to really create, because right now it's like a proliferation of workbooks. And well, what's folders and workbooks look like? They're the same thing kind of sometimes. Like they're in the same, they're in folders, and so that's something that we've got to figure out. But that's a big goal for me, is to do that. And then but with Tableau per se, I would, yeah, just the animation feature, I really would love to apply somewhere and figure out all that. I would also like to get more like stats in my visits. As my visits, they start out very simple, just very descriptive stuff, but is there opportunity to add correlation matrix? And is there opportunity to add, you know, this and that, or a t-test? You know, what does that look like? So I've done it before, but I would really like to get more into that as we kind of mature our tools.
Do you use Tableau outside of work? And if so, how?
I did. I used to have a blog. I haven't touched it since before I had my third child, and he was born in 2019. And it's like a Weebly site. And I made a Tableau for my my Spotify playlist. So when y'all were the DJ, you know, before this, I was like, yes, we have to have a Spotify playlist for you know, this community, right? So, but yeah, so I had a Spotify, I made a Tableau, and I have Spotify playlists just for like certain scenarios throughout my day. Like, I have Spotify playlists for when I'm in Tableau prep, crunching data, or when I'm visiting out in desktop. And it's all like low beat, like house music, right? It's just like, got a tempo, I'm going. And then I have certain playlists for when I'm taking my kids to daycare in the morning, right? And so it's like all just like faces and, you know, Father John Misty and stuff like that. So I made a Tableau. It was like, this is my mom, you know, playlist, and this is my work playlist. But sometimes I do both. And so I made like a little Venn diagram and stuff like that. So just because I wanted to be able to click on an icon and it take me to the Spotify playlist. And so that's what I was able to do with that.
Well, we did put the link for your Tableau public page up here in the on your slide. So
Awesome.
go check out her Spotify playlist.
They haven't been updated, so don't judge me too much.
Is there anything else you want to share before we start the lightning round?
Not really. You know, it's a labor of love, I feel like, with anything Tableau. And I've really found that keeping it simple has been the most successful thing when it comes to like lifting one up from scratch and sending it off to the masses. So just wanted to share that, keep it simple.
All right. In that case, we will jump into our lightning round. Starting with June 24th, 3 days ago was International Fairy Day, and June is National Candy Month. Tooth Fairy, anyone? So the Tooth Fairy is a fan of when teeth fall out, not because you've eaten too much candy though. So what is the best thing you've ever gotten or left as a Tooth Fairy since you have kids?
Let's see. So I would say what I've left. So like Adam and I were like, do we have cash? My husband were like, do we have cash? You know, wait for the kids to fall asleep. And he was like, well, I made these little keychains at work today because they have like a laser and like steel and stuff. And so we're like, okay, let's take these little keychains that have like, you know, Sesame Street on them and put them under there. Right. And she loved it. She absolutely went crazy, my 5-year-old. So that was good. That was good.
That's way more fun than getting a quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, next up, today is International Pineapple Day. So are you a fan of pineapple on pizza?
I am not, even though I was born in Honolulu, I am not a fan of pineapple on pizza, I have to say.
What do you like then? What toppings do you prefer?
Veggies, but not fruit. So
Okay.
yeah, not fruit, veggies. Margarita is probably my go-to.
Good choice. All right, so today is Ice Cream Cake Day. There is a holiday for every single kind of food, isn't there? And June 20th was National Ice Cream Soda Day. And then June overall is National Dairy Month. So what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
It's probably a mixture. It's probably the swirl, like vanilla and chocolate. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Why pick one when you can have both?
Exactly.
Right. So June 21st was the first day of summer. And if any of you are living in the South, like Heather, you're probably feeling it. So what is your favorite season and why?
I would say the spring is my favorite season because I love the Masters golf tournament at the Augusta National Golf Club, and I really look forward to it. It is the best week of the year, and I just love it. I just love it.
I would probably love spring more if I didn't have allergies.
Right. There's that. As you can tell, I'm experiencing the ragweed right now, so
Wow.
that's nice stuff.
All right. So June is also National Great Outdoors Month and National Camping Month. So what is your favorite national park?
I would say Yosemite, but I haven't been there. That's on the bucket list. But yeah.
Yeah, I would love to visit that one.
Mhm.
All right. Next up, June is also Pride Month. June is a very busy month. What is
It
one
is.
thing you've accomplished this year that you're really proud of?
I guess, I mean, getting this gig, I guess. I mean, I was promoted in January and, I've been in IE, here at AU since 2012. And, I was like, am I ready for this? I don't know. It's a big girl job. But it's good. It's good. I'm proud of that.
Definitely should be. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So June 22nd, sorry, was World Rainforest Day. Which rainforest would you most want to visit?
I don't know. I would say maybe none of them because they terrify me.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. So maybe I'm good with like just looking at, planet Earth, it's just I'm that far away. That'd be good.
Yeah, I guess some of those creatures that live in the rainforest are a bit scary. I have to.
Giant snakes.
All right, last but not least, today is National Camera Day. What is the best picture you've ever taken?
I don't know if I've taken one. There's a really special picture from my first son. I have 3 kids, and Cooper's my oldest. He's about to be 9. And when we were at his newborn shoot, we brought a Masters teddy bear from that year, 2014 Masters, or 2014 Masters. We're like, hey, can you use this as prop in one of your pictures? And she said, yeah. And it came out like absolute golden moment of my life. Like, it looks amazing. It's like you couldn't like, I mean, it's an amazing photo because he's right there, just like sleeping. And then she got like the bear right here where he was like perfectly like placed his arm over it. He's like 10 days old. And the lighting and the shading, it just like gets his little cheeks just right and his little nostrils just right. And it's just perfect. And it's not blurry at all. Like he didn't move at all like during it. So that's like a big picture in our house.
Yeah. It's hard to get a good shot of a child because they usually are squirming.
Yes.
All right. Well, that wraps up our lightning round. Heather, thank you so much for being
Thank you.
member today.
Thank you.
If anybody else is interested in being a featured community member in a coming month, let us know. We have a form you can fill out for that. All right. So our next speaker is Rashid Minott. He is going to share 15 or more Tableau tips in 30 minutes. Rashid, are you up for the challenge?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
Awesome. Well, Rashid and I have worked together at the virtual Carolinas, North and South Carolina user group meetings that we have annually. And it's always been fun to hear his tips and tricks. He's got some great dashboards that I highly recommend you check out. I believe we're going to put those links in the chat as well. And Rashid, if you want to share your screen, I will turn it over to you.
No problem. Okay, Jane, do me a favor and let me know if and when you can see my screen.
All right.
Give me 1 sec. And we can jump right into it.
I can see your Tableau public page.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, I am Rashid Minott. Right now, I'm a senior lead analytics consultant at Wells Fargo, based in Charlotte, North Carolina. But to Rushnee's point, I've been building dashboards in Tableau for about 8 years. I was a Tableau user group ambassador back in 2020. I won the Tableau Battle of the Banks back in 2020, and I spent the last 2 years working at Tableau as a lead solution engineer. So it's just to say, I've been doing this Tableau thing for a while now. I'm a huge proponent of Tableau Public. I have all sorts of stuff out there on Tableau Public, and a lot of what I do on Tableau Public really is just, be honest with you, it's just practice. That's kind of what I used to always joke with people. That you can learn Tableau the traditional way to a certain point, and then to take your skills to that proverbial next level, practice. And Tableau Public to me was the biggest game changer in that aspect. Go to Tableau Public, search for something, find a dashboard you like, see if you can download it, and reverse engineer it. Take it apart, put it back together again. That takes you from like that 50% to the 90% to the people who start doing ironers and stuff like that. So that's a little piece of advice just in general. Like I said, no matter where you are in your Tableau journey, I can't think of a better way to say this. Do not sleep on Tableau Public. It actually is a bigger part of learning Tableau than most people think. But with that, today we're going to talk, this session is something I had done back in my Tableau days. It is 30 tips in 60 minutes, but we don't have 60 minutes. So we're going to try to get 15 of these in 30 minutes, or as many as we can get in 30 minutes as possible. But if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try to get through all 15 first, and then, I will take a look at the chat. Jenny might be able to answer some of them, and, anyone else, if you already know the answer, feel free. But I'll leave some time at the very end for any kind of questions. These are speed tips, so it doesn't really matter. None of these are going to be long. They're all going to be quick. Some of them are going to be simple. Some of them are going to be kind of stuff you probably already know. And some of them are going to be stuff that hopefully you kind of, actually you didn't know. The thing I can tell you is that when I was working at Tableau, and the reason I was like doing this session, there's a lot of things that aren't in the instructions. They're not on the website. They're not like, I used to joke, like, how are people supposed to know that even works like that? It's not anywhere. I went to Tableau.com help, and I never saw anything that said that. So I'm going to try to call out those types of things in this session here, because some of these things, like I said, they're really quick and easy. It's just no one ever told you. So hopefully one or two of these things will stick with you. And if not, hopefully, you'll just kind of hear stuff that you already know. So with that, like I said, these are going to be from easy to medium, advanced, nothing really that hard, but it really is more about stuff that you should just know. So like I said, I'm going to jump around a bit, kind of with all these tabs at the bottom. But the biggest thing right off the top is that I don't know if most people know this, but you can rearrange basically the screen in Tableau. All of these proverbial cards, anything you see that's kind of in a box, when you see, as I'm hovering, you see how the icon's changing, that's letting you know that that can be moved. I can move the pages shelf down here. I can move the filter shelf down here. I can move rows and columns. I mean, not that you might want to do that, but I can move rows over here. I can move rows over to the right side. Everything that you see that has a card type of, or basically if you hover over the top left section and you see this icon, it's something that can be moved. So just so you know that the entire canvas kind of can be rearranged, to kind of fit your, whatever it is that you like. It's just something that most people don't know, and it is something that, you can do, so it's just more of an FYI, if you ever wanted to know that. The other one is the right click stuff. This is important. I don't know the Mac shortcuts on this, so forgive me. I think it's going to be like hold down the option key as opposed to like hold down the option and right drag. But because I'm on a Windows machine, I'm just going to show you Windows. And it's basically there's three types of context menus that can pop up when you right click and drag. If you take a measure, I'm going to take something like sales. If I just hold down the right mouse button, I just kind of drag it over and I'll drop it on rows, you're going to see I'm going to get this kind of context menu, which allows me to kind of say, if I wanted this to be the average of sales or something else besides the sum, I can just do that and it'll just automatically show me the average of sales. This is no different than doing it the other way, just dragging sales up here and then right clicking on it and then going here and then choosing average. It's just a quicker way to achieve the exact same task. But they are different. If I right click and drag a date field, that menu is going to look a little bit different than it did a second ago because it's a date. So if I take ship date and I'm holding down the right mouse button, and now I kind of get a context menu based on dates. For those who don't know, when you see dates like this, and this is the same thing, and I'll show you when I drag it over the regular way, dates that are highlighted in blue versus dates that are highlighted in green, it might look like these are the same thing. Like what's the difference between year ship date when it's blue versus year ship date when it's green? Blue is always discrete, green is always continuous. Do not ever think that blue represents a dimension and green represents a measure. That's not accurate. You can go both ways with that, but blue will always be discrete, green will be continuous. So blue will create like a discrete category for year, where green would create just a long range, like kind of like a continual line for year in this kind of context. But that's just more of an FYI. And then the last one is you just right click on a regular dimension. I'll just right click and drag that just to show you. And this is the last one where it's basically I can do a min or max or a count or an attribute, off of that dimension. So it's just something to be mindful of. Again, these are going to get harder or more advanced as we go. So I'll go through some of these pretty quickly. If you don't know the duplicative field, like if I want another product subcategory, I don't have to actually drag another product subcategory. Quick way to do this is just hold down the control key. I hold down the control key and then just click on something and drag it. It'll automatically create a duplicate version of that. So again, that's just a quick way of duplicating a field that you have on the screen. Hold down control, drag it to wherever you want to drag it to, and you'll have two versions or three or four, whatever kind of you want to do. Just hold down the control key. Don't worry about some of this stuff. I think I can get you guys a copy of this TWBX file, so you don't worry about screenshotting and kind of, trying to remember all of this stuff. I think I can give you a copy of this workbook, or at least I can give it to Jenny, and she can kind of disseminate it amongst you guys accordingly. Okay, assign a geographic row to a field. This is important. One day you will need to do this. You're going to see like some of these things, it kind of just has like a little sentence describing what the problem is. And then in the caption, we describe how to basically solve that problem. In this scenario, it's important to know that region is in my underlying data set, but region is just a text field. And if I wanted to show region as a geographic hierarchy, again, region is just a text field. It doesn't know what states are within a region, but you can, if you already have a geographic field, you can assign another field as like a parent hierarchy to that field. If none of this makes sense, let me just do it and it'll make sense kind of as we go through this. So again, reading this text, you can tell by just the ABC. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go down to where it says geographic role, and I'm going to go to where it says create from. Now, what's in the list from create from is going to be what geographic fields you already have in your data set. So city, zip, and state are already in my data set, and they're already geographic fields. And you can tell because they'll have this little globe icon. If you see something with a globe icon, that's letting you know Tableau brought it in as a geographic field. So again, I'm going to go down to geographic role, create from, and then I'm going to choose state. And now that I've done that, you're going to see that it basically created a hierarchy. It turned region into a geographic field. And the way it's treating it is region is now going to be a parent to state. So if I take region and I drop it now on the detail shelf, now I can see the profit ratio per region, and I still have the ability to go down to state. I created a hierarchy which allows me to do this. Again, you could do this with any kind of geographic dimensions. It's literally just going to create a hierarchy, and you're just basically saying that your field is what you want to make the parent of an existing geographic field. Sounds complex, but it's not. Trust me, once you do this a few times, it'll make sense. Okay, with that, going to keep skipping around. If you ever want to create a no access bar chart, for visual design best practices reasons, I don't really suggest doing this, but it might come up one day where you just want to do it, or you have a bar chart and it's got like just 3 things in it. You know, that might be a scenario where if it's just 3 bars, you probably don't necessarily need an axis. And what I mean by how can I create a bar chart without an axis? I've intentionally made the 0 line red just so you can see it, because this is basically, these bars are sitting on an axis and that red line is representing the value of 0. If you don't want to have an axis, it's quite simple to do this. You just basically take your measure. I'm going to take the sum of 2014 sales, and I'm just going to take the whole thing and just drop it on size. Now, it's going to look ridiculous, but it's okay, because the next thing I need to do is just change the mark type. I just changed the mark type to bar. Now we have a bar chart that has no axis. There's no 0 line. There's no, you see what I'm saying? This is basically a bar chart that does not have an axis to sit on. Again, for visual design best practices reasons, you kind of do want to keep a 0 line or an axis for bars to sit on, but there are some use cases where you could probably get away with something like this, and you know, it won't be kind of no harm, no foul. So with that, we'll keep going. This is one of those ones that, you know, and I'll call them out. Like, I don't know if this is called out anywhere in Tableau's documentation, but this is one of those ones I feel like should be. And that's how to swap measures on the color marks card without altering the original color palette. It's easier just to show you what I'm talking about. Right now, we've got a map and we've got basically it broken out by state, and it's the sum of sales on each state. This measure is already on color. Sales is already on color. If I just swap out that measure with another measure, I'm going to take profit ratio and just drop it on top of it. You're going to see the color palette just straight up changed. Now it's basically, you know, the orange is the lowest values and there's, you know, gradient blue are the higher values. That's not the color palette that we had before. This is the color palette that we had before. Tableau will do this by default every single time you change a measure. Unless, easiest way to do this, take what you have on the color marks card already. Don't take another measure and drop it on top of it. Just double click and do an inline edit. Instead of me doing what I did before, I'm just double clicking and now I'm just going to type profit ratio. You know, you don't have to necessarily type it, but you get where I'm going. Like if you do this as an inline edit, now it should, oh, did I do something wrong there? Maybe I didn't. Yep, I did something wrong there. Sorry. So I think I just moved something. Let's try this again. I'm going to double click in here. I'm just going to delete sales. And I'm going to say profit ratio. And we'll try that one more time. And okay. I'm sorry. The problem is that you can't do the sum of the profit ratio. So that's my fault. Instead of doing the sum of sales, I should delete the whole thing and just type profit ratio. And this hopefully will work. And I don't know why it's looking strange like this on the screen. I don't know if it's looking strange for you, but definitely looking strange for me. But I can promise you this does work. If it ever does let me, boom, okay. So all I did was basically change this from sum of sales to profit ratio, and it kept my color selection. So even though Montana remember Montana was orange before, and it was kind of a different shade of blue. So if you ever want to keep, and I think this is not just for color selection. I think if you had formatting on, on your label, if you had anything that you went ahead and did within the marks card, if you do an inline edit as opposed to just taking a new pill and dropping it on top, it will maintain whatever you had already done. So it'll maintain, like I said, your color selection or your label format or so on and so forth. Again, that could come in handy every now and again, and I don't know if that's documented anywhere. I wish it was. One day we'll talk about that. But for now, we'll just kind of keep going with some of these tips. Okay, bands using transparent shapes. You're going to notice that, and we'll get to it. To me, the biggest things in Tableau that I always find the most valuable are using transparent shapes, transparent colors, and I forget what the other one is, transparent text. You're going to see the other two in a little bit. But again, I think the question in the lightning round was kind of what's some of your favorite features in Tableau. To me, these are some of these features because I can't do this in other tools like Power BI and so on and so forth. So let me explain just one of the benefits of transparent shapes. If you do something like a band and you just use just a typical band the way you would normally do it, band stands for big ass numbers, so you're just a big number on the screen. That's really all it is. And this is a typical band. And this is fine. This is just basically measure values kind of on text and measure names, on text. And we're just kind of calling out these. There's just big numbers, they're not KPIs per se, because there's no indication of whether these numbers are good or bad. But again, these are just big numbers that you would kind of put on a dashboard. And this is fine, except the fact that someone can click, and when they do, this happens. And this is just typical Tableau behavior. There's nothing you can do about it unless you're willing to get creative. And again, like I said, some people might be fine with the ability to click on something and have it look like light blue like this, but you just can't control it. Like, you can't change that shade of blue. You really can't do anything about the behavior when you click on something on the text mark card. But if you get a little creative, you can kind of get around this. And I'm going to show you how to do that with a transparent shape. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to change the drop-down selection here to shapes. And then you're going to see it just defaults to a circle. That's fine. I'm going to click on the shape icon. I'm going to go to more shapes. Now, you're not going to have all of these different types of shapes by default, but I'm going to put these links in here to show you how you can create your own custom shapes. It's quite easy to do, and you can do it with any version of Tableau. So I've created some custom shapes, and one of them is a transparent shape. Transparent shape is literally just a box I think I created in PowerPoint where I just turn down the opacity. It's clear. It doesn't have a color. It's like see-through. And I just save it as a PNG, and that's it. And that's all this shape is. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to click apply, and the circle will disappear. And that's nothing special, because really it's that box. It's just invisible. That's all that's happening here. So I'm going to click OK. But now that I've done that, now when I click, this kind of looks a little bit better. And this is just something that, this is a hack. I'm not going to lie to you. This isn't an official Tableau recommendation or anything like that. But it does look better than that blue box. And it's just, you're just doing this like an optical illusion because you're using a transparent shape. So if you ever want to do something like that, again, it's quite easy. I'll wait till the end, and I'll put all these links in here. Like I said, we'll get you a copy of this workbook anyway, so I don't want to kind of spend too much time on that. But it's not hard to create custom shapes in Tableau. You might have already done it, and the transparent shape is not hard either. So with that, we'll keep going. This is another one of those things. I don't know if it's quote unquote useful. It's just something that you should know. The same way you can swap pills, blue pill, green pill. I've got 2015 sales and 2014 sales, and you can kind of see 2015 versus 2014. I could switch the order by moving the pills, and that's kind of how most people would kind of, lay out their canvas on the screen. But that's not their only option. Like, I could move 2014 sales in front of 2015 sales without clicking either one of these green pills. Again, this is one of those, you have to hover on the screen to find it, but anytime you hover and you see this, like there's this little kind of, shaded, I don't know what kind of geometric shape it is, but it's kind of like in the form of like a You get what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing. But anytime you see an icon like that, that means that's something that can be clicked and dragged. So right now we've got 2015, 2014. The same way I did before, I'm going to click on this right here and I'm just going to drag it in front of 2015. And I basically just accomplished the same thing. I'm just moving things around. So again, you can move things on the canvas. You don't have to necessarily always move the pill itself. Just like we did before, this also applies if you want to duplicate something. If I want to duplicate subcategory, I could hold the control key and drag the blue pill, or I could hold the control key and just drag this right here. And I'll put, subcategory on color or something like that. So just something to be mindful of. You can actually, you're not always limited to the pills themselves. You can actually kind of, move stuff on the screen and kind of use, what's on the screen and also kind of manipulate your view if you want as well. So with that, we'll keep going. I think we're halfway through. Like I said, I jumped through a lot of these. This is just something that everyone should know. How can I quickly apply a filter to the blue worksheet? What I mean by the blue worksheet is that if you ever had a scenario like I have, where you have all these tabs and you want to apply your filter to like 10 of the 30 tabs, what's the quickest way to figure out, how you can apply the filter to 10 of the 30 tabs? Start using this color thing down here. Like if you notice, when I'm on any tab, I can right click it and I can change the color of it. That's not just for your own personal edification. That actually does have a Tableau benefit. Like if I make this yellow, it's not just, to say it's for me to figure out, that I'm going to keep all the yellow ones together with the reds and so on and so forth. It helps with filtering, because now if I take a filter and I right click on it and I say apply to worksheet, that same color, whatever you want to call it, it shows in the filter selection box. If I want to apply a filter to all of the red tabs, I can quickly see which of the ones are red. This is a quick way for you as kind of a developer to, be able to separate which tabs are for what. And if you want, certain filters to be applied to just the blue tabs or just the red tabs, now you don't have to remember the name of each tab and so on and so forth. You can kind of design intentionally and then be like, okay, I know I just got to make this filter for all the red ones and this filter for all the purple ones, and then the last filter for the yellow ones. Just something to be mindful of if you didn't already know that. So with that, we'll keep going. Again, I think, like I said, there's not too many more of these, so we can get through this real quick. Okay, this is another one. I told you I'm going to call them out. I don't know why Tableau does not make this more known, but kind of is what it is. Add a hyperlink to text only works in web edit only. What do I mean by that? Well, if you add a text box to a Tableau dashboard, kind of like the one we have here, you can do what you see at the top of the screen. And I'm just going to show you. This is just another separate text box. This works no matter what you're doing. Like if you take a URL and you literally just type out the whole URL, you can make, kind of that URL clickable basically in your text box. And I'll show you just what I'm talking about. So I'm going to basically just paste that URL down here. And now I think the font's maybe the font's too big on this or something like that. So let me make this all just a little bit smaller. So I'll make this an 11-point font. Hopefully everything will be good. Okay, now, so this is clickable. This is nothing new. You can add a URL into a text box and make it clickable. But what you may not have known is, what if I don't want to add the URL? What if I want to apply a URL to a word? Like I want to write the word Tableau website and make that clickable. Can I do that? Not in Tableau desktop, but you can actually do it. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go back to my Tableau public. I'm going to go to this exact dashboard that we're looking at. And I'm going to go into edit mode. This will work in edit mode of Tableau Server, Tableau Cloud, or Tableau Public. It doesn't matter. It's going to work in all three. But again, I can't stress this enough. It will not work in desktop. So from here, it's the same dashboard that we're looking at. Is there a quick way for me to do this? I'm not sure if there is. I think it was bonus tip number 2. Okay. So same thing that we were just looking at a second ago. I'm going to right click on the screen and I'm going to say edit. Now, we've got the word Tableau website there. I want to show you what I'm about to do. This is just Notepad. Hopefully you can see it. I just dragged a Notepad thing in there and it's just, I already have it written. It's just www.tableau.com. I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to do a Control-C. I don't know why, but if you do edit copy, it may not work. It's the equivalent of Control-C, but sometimes it doesn't. Weird stuff. So instead of me doing edit copy, I'm just going to highlight it and do Control-C. And I'm going to go back to Tableau. I'm going to highlight Tableau website, and I'm going to do Control V. Look what just happened. It literally just, you may have never even seen this before. Like, it made it a URL, and I could go in and now edit that URL. Again, none of this is in Tableau Desktop. Don't bother ever looking for it. But this works. I'll click OK. I'll click OK. And, you know, I'll even, I could save it, but it doesn't matter. You can see that it's actually, I could click on Tableau website and it literally would open up tableau.com. I cannot explain why this only works in the cloud or in the browser, I should say, but it is something that you should be mindful of because it does work and it never will work in desktop. I've asked people, I don't think it's even coming to desktop. So it's just one of those things that if you want to do it, just wait till you finish your dashboard, publish it, and then do a web edit after the fact. And you can, like I said, kind of make URLs, you know, over existing text in a text box. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, with that, we'll keep going. Puja boxes. I don't even know this is a thing. Puja Gandhi, she actually was, I believe, a tab. They were Zen masters. I still call them Zen masters. I know it's visionary now. I just always call them Zen masters. She's a former Tableau Zen master. She has a lot of good stuff on Pluralsight. If you ever look up some of the Tableau courses on Pluralsight, she's actually got some good courses out there as well. But this is just a design technique. I've seen her do it before, so I just refer to them as puja boxes. Like their name is Puja Gandhi. But again, this is more of a kind of, if you ever wanted to accomplish this, this is more of kind of like, you know, visual trickery. It's not actually what you think it is. You see how we've got kind of these, you know, we've got text and then we've kind of got like the half boxes on each side. And you can kind of see how she's done it in this dashboard and applied this effect. Again, this is just visual trickery. It's just a box that's literally laid on top of another box. You create a text box, you make sure it doesn't have a border, and then you just kind of cut off a box behind it and you get that same effect. It's just like I said, it's more of showing you the magic kind of behind the scenes. But it's if you ever reverse engineer a lot of dashboards, you're going to see a lot of things kind of are visual trickery. Like at the end of the day, it's probably not as complex as you think. It's just more of an optical illusion to kind of give it an effect. But some of these things are extremely powerful. Even though they're simple, they work visually. They work, and to me, this is always like a good example of something like that. Very simple to do. Okay, with that, we'll keep going. Okay, I don't know how useful this is, but it is another one of these things that you may not be aware of. When I highlight a region, I want the colors to stick. What does that mean? Right now, we have a 100% stacked bar chart, and I'll show the labels, you know, kind of make it look a little bit more, I guess, maybe what you would expect to see. And what we can do, we've got basically our legend, and we've kind of got it off to the side. And forgive me, my mouse is dying on me, hopefully. Okay. Okay, there we go, it's back. Okay, so we've got the legend off to the side. And if you ever notice, there's this little icon here where you can, you know, kind of click it so you can highlight selected regions. If it's not clicked and I click on Central or East, nothing's going to happen. But if I do click it, it'll basically highlight whatever I've selected. So now that it's kind of, you know, on, if I click Central, if I click East, it's basically highlighting the selected region. That you may have known you can do. But what you can also do, let's say this is only going to be looked at by people from the Central, you know, region. You can lock this in where I'm going to click on the Central and then I'm going to open up the little caret right here and I'm going to say assign highlighted colors to palette. And what that's going to do, that's going to change the color palette itself. Now, and I'll take the labels off because it kind of looks a little weird. That is the color palette. Like this isn't like a highlighted type of view. That's the actual color palette. Now, what it did is it changed the color palette to what it was when it was highlighted. If I go to the color palette and I hit edit colors, blue is for Central and a watered down orange, red, and, you know, I guess that would be teal are what we're seeing. Like this is now the actual permanent color palette. So this is just something that you can do if you ever had a use case where it kind of came up. To undo this, like if you do this and you kind of want to get rid of it, you just got to reset your color palette. I click reset color palette and click OK, color palette should go back to what it was before. Just something to be mindful of that you know, you might not have been aware that you can do. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap up these last four real quick, and then we'll, you know, if we have any questions. This one might be kind of, I mean, it looks cool. I don't know if it's going to be too useful, but I'll show you kind of what it is. I want January to be red, and I want the rest of the month to be a gradual shade of blue. You might not have known you can do this, but you can. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hold Control because I want to duplicate this month order date, and I'm going to drag this over to color. So now we've got basically color on, we got a different color for every month, basically. I'm going to click on color and I'm going to say edit colors. Now, we want January to be red, so I'll click on January and we'll make it red. But we want the rest of the month to be a gradual shade of blue. And how do we do that? We're going to choose this, a sequential color palette, something where it's just one color, from like the lightest version of that color to the darkest version. So basically, I'm going to choose blue. And I'm going to select February through December. I held down the shift key when I did that just to select them all. And I'm going to say assign palette. And then we're going to click OK. And basically, we've created the effect. We've got January's red and the rest of the months are a gradual shade of blue. There's a way you can even do this where the shade of blue could be based on the actual measure itself, the sum of sales. Like the month with the lowest value would have the lightest shade of blue, and the month with the highest value would have the darkest shade of blue. And red could be like the month that's being driven like by a parameter or something like that. You can achieve some of this stuff, and it's not as hard as you think. But again, this is a quick way of showing you how to do that. Okay, I think just 2 or 3 more. Okay, we saw the first with transparent shape, transparent characters. I'm going to show you when this comes into play. Again, these are transparent Unicode characters. You can just do a Google search on transparent characters, but I have a website here that kind of shows you, basically examples of transparent Unicode characters, and they work in Tableau. So what we have here, I'm going to show you, if I edit the title, it says copy the space in between the quotes, because that is a transparent character. I'm going to go to edit title, and between these 2 quotes is an actual transparent character. I'm going to click the thing right there. You notice how now it's showing red, because the character itself, even though it's transparent, would be actually, a shade of red if you could see it. So I literally just highlighted what's in the middle of those 2 quotes. I'm going to click copy and I'm going to click OK. I've just copied a transparent character. Why is this valuable? We've got a table here, and what I want to do is I want to make sure everything stays right aligned, because if I center align this, what's going to happen is you're going to have a scenario where not everything lines up perfectly kind of against each other, because you could have a scenario where in which something might have multiple decimal places. You might have a scenario like, where you kind of have like, the currency formatting versus it won't look is, like usually when you're dealing with numbers, you kind of in a spreadsheet, you want to keep them right aligned. But I don't like the fact that it's not perfectly aligned with the titles themselves. And normally I wouldn't be able to do anything about that. But now I'm going to click in text. I'm going to actually open this up. And after measure values, I'm just going to do a Control V. I'm just going to paste this. I'm going to paste once, then I'm going to paste again. And then I'm going to click OK. And what we've done, we've moved everything, but we're still maintaining right alignment. We have not center aligned anything. We added transparent characters. There's actually something after the percentage. There's 2 things after the percentage. They're just invisible. So at the end of the day, it works. It creates the effect that we wanted to create. But at the same token, I want you to understand how this is actually working. There are 2 actual characters after everything you see in this spreadsheet. It's just they're invisible. That's basically all we've done here. Again, it's use cases, I'm not going to say limited, but it's usually there'd be certain use cases when you would need something like this. I wouldn't say you're going to need this very often, but just, good to know that it's something that you can do. Okay, with that, we're coming to the end. Okay, supersized bands. This is one of maybe the last of wish Tableau would have told you. Because again, you might think we've got basically really, really big text here, just really, really big band. If you go into the text marks card, you would say the biggest I could make something is what you've already made it, Rashid. Like, you can go up to 72. I can make it 48, make it a little bit smaller. I can go up to 72, which was the last thing in the list. And that's about as big as it's going to get, because you cannot change this number here. Like if I change this to something higher than 72, if I make this 120, I can't even type the 0. Like it's not even going to let me do a 3-digit number. So at the end of the day, Tableau won't let you go bigger than 72, but you can go bigger than 72. So how? This is going to require application outside of Tableau, but I don't think many of you don't have Office or Microsoft Word, because that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to basically just keep this open. I've just right-clicked and I said copy. I've got Word open. This is just Microsoft Word. It does not matter what version of Word. You could have an old version of Word if you wanted to. And this is just a blank document in Microsoft Word. So all I'm going to do is just paste basically what we had there. That's sum of sales. Notice I'm keeping the calculation the way it's written in Tableau. I'm not changing anything. And it was the 72 or whatever it was, basically, when I took it out of Tableau. It doesn't matter what Word interprets that size to be, just change the size to what you want in Word. I'm going to change this to 120. And now it's just really, really big, almost comically big. And now I'm going to copy it back. And we're going to go back to Tableau. I'm going to erase this. And I'm going to do Control V and paste in the comically big version. And voila, you now have a supersized band. This works, whatever size you want. I've only tried it with Word, might work with other Word editors, tell you the truth, like Google, whatever their Word equivalent is. I can't think of the top of my head. But again, like I said, it's just, this is more of a Tableau, this kind of box limitation. The program could take a bigger size, but this box won't let you edit this number here to be more than 3 digits, more than 2 digits, I should say. So again, it works. You can try it yourself, and just kind of a good thing to know. All right, I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker here. Hide off screen. This isn't even like a thing. Like, it's just more of a, you can know that you can drag things off of the canvas. Like, this dashboard is 1000 by 800. So everything you see here, kind of with the white background, is the canvas. If you take an object, you can't actually drag it off the canvas. I'll show you what I mean. Like, I'll take a blank box here and we'll just kind of bring it out, and I'll make it a different color so you can see kind of what I'm talking about here. All right, so if I make this like a version of black. Okay, I can take this box, but I can't actually see how it just disappears when I go off the canvas. Like, it literally won't let me put it out there where you see that other stuff. So how did I get the other stuff out there? You can't drag something with your mouse off the canvas, but you can actually put it off the canvas by coordinates. Like, if I change the X coordinate from 627 to like 1327, that's going to put it off literally. So this is what I mean. And if I try to drag it with the mouse again, it's not going to let me. It's going to give me the X and say, no, you can't, until I bring it back to, like, somewhere on the screen. So again, you can't use the mouse when you put things off the canvas, but if you're willing to put coordinates in, you can put things off the canvas. And this is a good way of, if you ever want something for a Tableau developer to see, but someone who's actually seeing the dashboard would never see. No one's ever going to, when you publish this dashboard, they're never going to see anything that's on this side in the gray area. A user will never see this, but a Tableau developer, someone who has edit access or someone who has desktop, could see this. You could give instructions to people who are like going to be editing the actual TWBIX file, or people who are doing web edit here, and it would never actually affect end users. End users would never know it existed, yet it would still be here. And you could theoretically have situations like this where you can just have the filter off on the side so that developers can change the filter, but users could not, so on and so forth. There are reasons why you might want to do something like this. But again, just be mindful, anything that's off of the canvas cannot be seen by an end user. And the only way to put something off the canvas is to actually plot the XY coordinates in doing so. Okay, quick for blocker. This is just more something you should just kind of, if you didn't know, it's just, and this kind of depends on your sheet, because you can have a scenario where Tableau will automatically create a vertical container for like legends and parameters and things of that nature. But if you have a sheet that doesn't have any, if you just double click on 4 sheets, it'll create a 4 blocker. So if I just double click on 1A, and actually, let me change this. I think if it's on, it has to be in a tile. So it was on floating, so I'm gonna change it back to tiled. And now to double click on 1A, double click on 1B, double click on 1C, and double click on 1D, it immediately just created a nice clean 4 blocker for me. Again, if you have, I can't remember them all, parameters, a legend, I think there's a few other things, that will be a scenario where it would create a proverbial vertical container on the right side and throw all that stuff in there, if you've ever seen that happen. But if you don't have any of those things, it'll create a nice clean 4 blocker like this. Okay, with that, we only got 2 more. Matter of fact, I'll jump to this one and come back. We'll do comments. Comments are just kind of, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you didn't know, basically, and this came a little while ago, there's 2 different types of commentary you can do in Tableau. Single line comment, basically, I'm just going to say this field is going to be, this calculation is going to be the sum of sales, like we would normally do. Now, if I want to add a comment so someone understands kind of why I'm creating this calculation, a single line comment, just two, backslashes, and I'll say Rashid's first comment. Again, this is just a comment. You can put whatever you want here. As long as it's in gray, Tableau is going to treat it like a comment. That's how you do a single line comment. If you want to do a multi-line comment, you basically just have to do a one backslash and then an asterisk, and then you can basically, I think it's because I already have some sales in there that's mad at me. But let's see if I can, and then close this. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so backslash asterisk opens these multi-line, asterisk backslash closes the multi-line. Now I can do things, over the course of multiple lines, right? Second comment. So I wanted to add a full paragraph of information. I can do it like that with a multi-line comment. The last is the Iron Viz tip. And that's basically, if you ever watched Iron Viz, you've seen people do this before. We'll do kind of as it says. I'm going to do basically a single line comment, and we're going to call this. Now, the thing to remember with the Iron Viz tip is that whatever you put in the single line comment is now going to be a field name. So I'm going to say Rashid, just going to basically what it says down at the bottom. We'll say Rashid Eastern calculation. And now I'm actually going to create a calculation. We'll say if the region, oh man, this is weird the way it's looking on the screen. Put space there. Equals east. Then we'll say, I have no idea what's going on with, I think it's because of my monitor. So I know it looks strange as I'm typing it because it looks strange to me too. But okay, normally this would not look this strange, but all right, you get the idea. I just wanted to create a simple calculation, and I called it Rashid Eastern calculation. The Iron Viz tip is that basically, if you, I want to say it's been a while since I've done this before. If you highlight everything, and you've done it the way I did it, which is you just basically created just a single line comment above it. I highlighted everything. I'm going to left click and drag and literally just drop this over here on the data pane, and that's going to automatically create a calculated field. Like I said, if you've ever watched Iron Viz before, that's kind of how they do it. This is weird. Can't make this go away. Strange. Where is the close? Oh. There we go, strange. Okay, so the calculation that I dragged over, Rashid's Eastern calculation, is basically what I wrote. So if you've ever seen Iron Viz, at the very, very beginning, every contestant will have like a notepad or some kind of document, and they're just dragging all of these things over and over. If you wanted to, theoretically, you could create a whole bunch of calculations in like Notepad or Microsoft Word. And then it is as simple as just kind of copying and dragging over to the left, and Tableau will automatically create the calculated field based off whatever was written, as long as it's written like this with a single line comment. Because basically the single line comment becomes the field name. That's just kind of how it works in Tableau. So with that, let's get to the last tip, and then any questions that you guys might have. Okay. We did transparent shape, we did transparent text, and now transparent color for you to see how this works. If you notice, I'm not going to walk through this, but as you can see, as I'm moving my mouse, it looks like, basically, and this is probably a little slow because of the fact that, I'm doing Zoom and sharing, but it does work. It's just kind of slow to react. This will react much faster, when you're not actually doing, a screen share or a Zoom session at the same time. But just wanted to show you basically this because it's off of a hover action, so everything's just going super slow. But how do you pull this effect off? This is being pulled off with the transparent color. And what I mean by that, I'm going to try to show this to you, and I'm not sure if this will work, but we'll see. This is a dual access chart. I'm going to remove the dual access so you can see that it's two different charts. Basically, this trick is really, at the end of the day, we've got a line chart and then we've got an area chart. And the reason the area chart looks like it's kind of, ending where I'm hovering the mouse is because it's not actually ending. The area chart has kind of a calculation which says everything to the left side of wherever I'm hovering should be blue. Everything to the right side should be the transparent white. Transparent white is just invisible, hence it's invisible. It's an actual color. Like I said, the easiest way to describe this is that you would have to go into the preferences file. You can literally add 2 zeros to the end of any HTML color code, and it'll make that color transparent. So at the end of the day, Tableau doesn't know anything about transparency. As far as Tableau is concerned, it thinks there's 2 colors here. It thinks there's blue and transparent white, but transparent white is invisible, hence it's creating an effect of invisible. This is a little complicated to try to explain in 10 seconds, but it does work. The takeaway is that you can add an 8-digit HTML hex color code only when you're doing transparent, meaning you can only add 2 zeros. But if you add the 2 zeros after any HTML color code, it'll create a transparent version of that color. And then you just got to use that transparent color strategically, kind of in your visualization. I'll give you a link. Matter of fact, we're at the end here. So if there's any questions, Jenny, feel free to let me know. I'm going to kind of show you one last dashboard that I have, which is kind of a good reference if you ever want. Because there's a lot of stuff in Tableau that even I sometimes forget how to do. So I, a long time ago, created a dashboard, which kind of was just a centralized view of all the links that I still use to this day. And it's come in handy. It's just Tableau resources. It has sections for a lot of what I covered today. It's got sections for links for all different types of tips and tricks. It's got, links on Tableau fundamentals, different KPI designs, workshops, prep, different design websites. It calls out, and this is what I was going to say, transparent files, use cases for transparent shapes, transparent color, transparent images, layout container, sizing, custom SQL. All of the links that I still use to this day, I kind of keep in this dashboard. So I'll put the link out to this because it probably will answer a lot of your questions. But with that, I do want to say if there's any questions, feel free to let me know. Come off mute, or Jenny, kind of let me know how you want to do this.
Yeah, if anybody has questions for Rashid, just put them in the chat box. If you have time, Rashid, to read back through, you've got a lot of accolades.
Thanks.
Personally, I learned several things I didn't know. And that last dashboard that you were showing, your Tableau resources dashboard, I will say that drawing tool on the first page is one of my favorite things you've ever shown me.
Yeah. And Jenny's not wrong. I mean, these are not mine. These are the links I've collected over the years from all the experts, and like, oh man, this was a great link. I'm keeping this. That's all this is. And then to Jenny's point, the color tool and the drawing tool, you'll never, when you start using these things, and there's kind of documentation on how to use them. I mean, you're going to see these are kind of like lifesavers. It's kind of like, oh man, I'm never going back to the old way of doing stuff again. So yeah, I can't, if you find something useful in any of these links, let the person at that site know, because like I said, I'm just glad that they keep a lot of these things out there over the years, because some of these things are kind of really invaluable. And most of what I showed you in that tips and tricks thing today came from the community. Like, even there are people at Tableau that didn't know that you can do certain things I showed you just now. Like, oh, we didn't even know that was in there. Like, yeah, we need to add that to the help site. So one day, hopefully they will, but until then, hopefully, other people's stuff within the community will kind of help you, get your skills up.
I don't see any questions for you, but everybody loved what you shared. They're so applicable across industries, and thank you. Thank you so much for being our guest speaker today.
No problem. Happy to do it. All right, guys, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
You too.
All right. Thanks so much, Rashid. That was awesome. I learned tons of stuff too, and I've been at the Tableau game for a very, very long time now. So now is your chance to share some things you learned out of recent conferences, related or unrelated to higher education. Some of the ones that we knew of is AIR and some of the regional chapters, Drive, EDUCAUSE, Higher Ed Data Warehousing, IEEE Viz, CanHeight, and the number of registrars conferences all happened between Convocation and July too. So anybody want to post in the chat what you've learned recently or what conferences you enjoyed, or feel free to unmute. Go from there.
Jeannie, do you want to share your analytics day tip?
I certainly will. Well, let me get my screen share up and going. So I learned something at Analytics Day, which was fabulous, by the way. If you were able to make it, I do have all the links to the recorded sessions. Just reach out and let me know if you need those. So I learned this not in a presentation, but through the chat when somebody mentioned, oh, hey, you can do that in Tableau Prep now in the new version. So this is 2023.2, I think. I have to double check. So before this came out, I was running this prep flow every single day, and I would go in manually and I would say, okay, this is June 28th. I'm going to run this new prep flow for June 28th, and I want that date in there so that the person who I then email it to knows which version it is. But now, instead of having to manually go in and type June 28th, they have a built-in system parameter where you can add the run date in any of these 3 different formats to your file name. And that made my day. Already implemented it. I'm good to go. No more manually renaming these files. Instead of having to rename and then run 3 separate outputs, I can just hit the play and it'll all update and rename itself. So super excited to find out about that. Who else wants to come off mute and share a tip that they learned at a conference this year? I know that you've definitely learned some stuff that we could all benefit from.
I can add one. I saw a presentation at the Association for Institutional Research Conference by Carnegie Mellon University. And one of the things that really stood out to me was normalizing a bunch of their data by the number of FTEs as a way to dig into complex variables that are growing at different rates. So thinking of things like section offerings, but normalized by how many FTEs the institution has, was a good way to kind of back out the huge enrollment growth that they've seen and see whether they're keeping up with that enrollment growth.
Well,
Anyone else?
I try to go to IEEE Viz, which is an academic conference, less a practical professional conference, but I mean, it is professional, it's academic. So it's basically a bunch of like faculty members and grad students and researchers sharing what they're doing. And let's see if I can actually make this work right. So this last October, a few folks from Tableau, Vidya Settler is on their research team. Chase Stokes is a grad student somewhere, I can't remember. Bridget Cogley is a Tableau visionary. I think she might be Hall of Fame already, or she's very close to that. Arvind Satyanarayan, he is at MIT. Marty Hurst, I want to say somewhere on the West Coast. Anyway, these guys, they did some research studies on how annotations help or don't help. And you know, it's one of those things, like we try to simplify as much as we can on our dashboards, just to let people explore and learn from the visualization. But sometimes they need a little bit of help. And so they tested different variations of annotation. So both the types of annotations that Tableau labels as annotations, but also things like a full text description, like this one on the right, or putting context in a title. And they, with line charts, they haven't tried with bar charts or anything else like that. But they found that I think this third image is kind of the thing that will help users get their takeaways. But at the same time, too much content can also lead people to the same takeaways, and sort of take away some of that exploration. And I think just this idea of there's actual research behind how we might be able to build better visualizations. That's the reason I loved IEEE Viz. I mean, there's a whole bunch of papers and presentations that are sort of on that tangent, or that sort of on the border of being applicable to us in a practical sense. And this is one of the ones from last year's presentation. In I think the previous year there was also one about dinosaurs. So dinosaurs and Viz, I can't, I can't not say yay to that. So anyway.
All right. Last call for any other conference feedback or things that you learned, and otherwise we'll move on from here.
Yeah, especially if David Thomas or Elise Carter Schultz are in here, because I know that there's been some discussion on the Slack page. Ben, do you want to talk more about that SQL connection between Slate and Tableau? That sounds really nifty. I know I use it when in Tableau Prep, but I haven't built it directly into Tableau.
Yeah, so at my institution, we just started playing with direct SQL connections to Tableau desktop. We do not use Prep, but I spend most of my day in Slate, and so I forget who it was at the Slate Summit that had built this SQL connection, and then they were feeding the dashboard back into Slate, so it was updating in real time. That is just next level, both Tableau and Slate. So I didn't know if anyone else here is as much of a Slate nerd as I am, and would appreciate it.
I didn't even know you could write back from Tableau into Slate. That's amazing.
I didn't know that either, honestly.
All right. So I think we are close to time to go into our breakout rooms. So before we do that, we wanted to talk a little bit about what's next. So we would love to get your feedback on today's meeting, what worked, what didn't work, what you want to hear more about. Links are in the chat. We also encourage you to register for the July HETUG on July 11th, 7-Eleven day, also a day that in theory you can get a free Slurpee from 7-Eleven if you're in the States, and participating locations only. Our Meet a Community member is actually not going to be an individual. It's going to be all of us. We're hitting our 2-year anniversary of HETUG, and we want to kind of talk about how the community has grown over the last 2 years. Andrew is going to noodle around with dysfunctional relationships. I don't know why Tableau decided on noodles, but I can't. I just love it. And then Christy Simpson from Texas Tech University's Health Science Center. Christy was scheduled to talk in December and then got really sick and literally could not talk when she was supposed to present. So she is going to be here on July 11th to talk about the interactive fact book that Texas Tech Health Sciences Center has set up for their School of Nursing. And as always, we are, always looking for people to present, whether a full-on session, a 30-minute plus presentation, short 5, 10, 15-minute tips and tricks, or if you want to be highlighted as our Meet a Community member, and the form to let us know is also on the screen and in the chat. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for attending. We hope you got something out of this, and we're going to go into our breakout rooms in just a second. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you guys next time around.